Hello everyone. Carlos here with Evolve Commerce Club. I'm joined today by Bérengère, and my friend and Evolve member, David Williams. And we're gonna be having a conversation with Bérengère. She's a customer insights, product marketing, e-com, marketplaces specialist. So Bérengère, a few words about yourself. What brings you to this show today?
Thank you. Well, I'm very happy to be at this show today. I have 15 years of experience working at the intersection of product and marketing with companies like eBay, Amazon, and Kantar. I'm always trying to unlock growth from deep customer understanding and being able to understand why people make decisions and then act on it. I work in different spaces. Before also all of this, I started in consulting with then a mindset of being sure of creating value. And then I love e-commerce for what it enables, across all the different places. And I am also like to be here at Retail Technology Show because it's a place where you can have conversations about the future, about different things happening in retail, about offline versus offline, about marketplaces, about agentic commerce, and that's fires quite a lot today.
Well, my first question. Typically, I start our sessions every Thursday with a controversial question.
Okay.
And perhaps I didn't plan this, but is there on and offline retail? I don't think there's a difference anymore. There's the customer and how she wants to buy. And so what's your take on this?
That's a very good question. So I never thought it was one versus the other. But I do remember very well when I was working at Amazon, we were thinking about how big e-commerce could be across the entire retail. And we were thinking it will not be more than 12%. It's actually truly 20% now. But that was before the pandemic. And I think what is interesting for me as a customer experience specialist is why would you choose one or the other and how you blend it into something that is worse when you are multi-channel. So every day there are people that are saying, okay, I need a new toaster. Will I go to see this in John Lewis or Robert Dyers, or will I, look and start online? This is a decision they have to make. And us as retailer, we can influence this decision by being very good at what we do, but also by our presence and the conversation that we bring, and the delivery and the convenience as well of e-commerce.
David, go ahead.
I think it's interesting now because I think it's shifting a bit because of AI. I brought it up first, but so you said there was a period where everyone thought e-commerce was only going to be 12%. It's now at about 26, 27%, but it's flatlining, It's slowing down. I think there's a natural stopping there that people aren't going, hey, we can get more customers by going online. That's gone, I think. Everyone's going, there is a finite number of customers, it's what channel they're going to. And I think what AI is doing now is allowing a lot more decision making to think you can do a lot more analysis there that actually will dictate whether you go to store or online. And I think there's going to be that element. There's going to be a lot of AI intent looking, finding out the information, but then you're just going to go to the store. You might not even go to the website for that intent driven. I don't think it's all going to happen in the LLMs yet, but I think there's a sense there, and I know some people, in fact you were at the same event as me, Andrew Zenny was saying, I need more stores. Nobody's child, they've done really well, but he said actually, because there's actually customers who just want to go in stores now. They'll chat with their LLMs and have conversations, find out the information, go straight to store. And I think e-commerce for a while used to be the bridge between the two, and it will still be the bridge, and people will still go to brand websites, but it's just that, do you see that sense of shift? I
love to talk about the halo effect as well. The fact that actually when you open a store in a space, in an area, you have then more online traffic. Because for me, the reason why I like this is because brands exist as real thing in reality. So if you put the brand out there in a store or in a pop-up, it doesn't have to be a full store, or it could be an event, anything, but something that is real in real life. Then you see the impact online. And this is interesting as well because that doesn't mean that not every brand marketing is about online. It's really about the differences where your customer are, and finding and interacting with your customer where they are.
And tell me about your work. Like, what's the? I've talked to some professionals in the world of insights, and
Yes.
so do you do mystery shopping? What do you do?
I've done mystery shopping in my life, actually. Insight specialist will give you a lot of a catalog of methodology. That's not me. Me personally, I think with my heart and my mind, and I'm trying to be in the shoes of the customer. Now, the number one thing which is important is that we all are a sample of one. So, yes, my experience might be that, your experience might be that. What is important is to think, okay, expressionally, and you say, okay, so what a customer in another situation would have done. How much could that? So there is a lot of empathy building, a lot of learning about different people as well, and customer understanding as a whole.
So what typically do you, and I like to ask you both, do you see as a challenge today from perhaps the merchant perspective, but you also work with vendors, so you've seen it all, right? You work in B2B, fashion, have vendors. What challenges do you guys see?
We are, from a retail perspective, we really are in a maelstrom in reality, because we have a cost of living crisis. We have a really big uncertainty, that everybody is facing every day, and we have disruption coming from AI. And all of this kind of is really rattling the boat a lot. Now, as always, there is lots of opportunity. I do think that agentic commerce is something that will help at the end. It's not there, at the end. I do think as well that this entity will still be there, but I think people will change a little bit the way they shop and bring probably a bit more meaning into what they do. It's not always a good news for us retailers, because that means that we need to be intentional in the product that we're putting in. But at the end, it creates something where there will be more intention and more meaning into what we do.
Yeah. I think the operating model shifts that are being brought around by what this means, both in your technologies and what you use, and then also in how your customers shop, and then how your people are being trained or using those technologies inside the business. And there's a big shift there, and there's just been a big period of time where you've just had a lot of digital transformations happening to try and get legacy stacks and technologies to reach a certain level, and now you've got this big bomb thrown in there that's shifting everything. And I think businesses are really struggling with it, because their immediate need right now is to look at productivity improvements and ways to shift and do things, and whilst also trying to think about what do I invest in to try and make sure that I'm keeping on top of where that the customer can find, I'm visible to the customer so they can buy what I need. And I think there's a lot of balls to juggle at the moment, not to mention the macroeconomic things that are happening. So I think retailers are having it from all sides at the moment. They've had a really tough few years. Really tough few years since COVID.
And I think you were mentioning marketplaces, and perhaps in the UK, because we see that in Brazil, marketplaces, they've become predominant. Like, I'm from Brazil, I see that in Denmark. There's always a narrative in Denmark that, at least official channels don't buy from Temu, but the customer doesn't care. They will, look at Temu and these other marketplaces as at least a first contact point with a brand, and they become prevalent. Like, you search for a product, anything, on a marketplace, and eventually a brand can bring them to their own ecosystem. That's how I see, right?
So there is if you take a long-term view on this, you may think that actually a little bit marketplaces, and I put Amazon into it, and Temu as well, but also Walmart, or they do a little bit what supermarkets have done, in the 60s or in the 70s. They give access to more.
Yeah.
There is convenience and delivery. That's where they actually, and especially Amazon, that's where they started, and they win the customer. But then they build their own brand onto it, and they put a trust label on that. And that's mean that actually as customers we have access to more, and having a lot to do. So that support that. But I know as supermarkets have not completely killed everything else, and it's not actually a good experience all the time. I actually it's good for things but not good for other things. It's also important to think about the experience of the other brands and other retail spaces or retail actor where they can do. I also want to say that marketplaces also helps with DTC, the direct to consumer, a lot, and that actually I think for me it's a very interesting development, because it helps very interesting, very entrepreneurs that have a very specific product to bring onto the market, to put that into life, and then find the right channel to distribute it.
Yeah, it's interesting because then I do think there's a place for both of them. I mean, look, the marketplace, you're always going to be one step away from understanding the customer and not going to have that direct relationship. And I think there's always been a little bit of a threat there with subscribe and save on Amazon, because you're building loyalty outside your ecosystem completely when you might want to have it within your own platform. So I think it's just, you've got to have some value add there to, if someone does like your brand, to bring that on the website that adds value. And I think people are looking for that a little bit more. Commoditized products, I've always seen Amazon and marketplaces to be the perfect place for. If I need a glasses case for this, I'll go to Amazon. There's no loyalty to buying. I'm not going to keep buying glasses cases for a little brand thing, but I might love the glasses and go to the DTC website and join a loyalty scheme, or see some relevant similar product, which the marketplace won't do. The marketplace will show me other retailers. So again, you're right. There are places for all of these, but I think it's finding the right balance for the two.
I was about to say what Marks & Spencer's have done with their marketplace is actually quite clever. They were Marks & Spencer's. Everybody knows them in the UK. It's kind of a household name. But then they open a marketplace online to more brands to come, and they have changed completely the way that people go to Marks & Spencer there, because there is more assortment. It's good for Marks & Spencer's, and Tesco is also doing it a bit less. I think Marks & Spencer's was really kind of a turnaround, part of a turnaround strategy.
Well, that's an example of an own brand business that sold its own brand, that did this and opened up what it did to other brands. And I know it's things up with JD, and Next obviously was a bit of the forward-looking business on that, and started mainly in wholesale initially. Again, for the reasons we were talking about maybe earlier, not on the podcast, of market, taking away that risk that you can have a marketplace and not hold the stock
But that's a really fascinating topic, because let's say that you're a super niche, small brand, and I used to work with a founder of a commerce platform, Vtex. I think I told you about him. So he would say that if you're a small brand, you have to stop being romantic and also be on other marketplaces as well, and perhaps even have your own marketplace to expand your assortment. So how do you guys see that? So let's say you sell socks nowadays, you could all of a sudden be selling stickers, because the customer, depending on your brand equity, doesn't really care, and you have an opportunity to,
I think, and I followed a few brands that have gone through this journey. Actually, there is a playbook where you start direct and on social, and you build your awareness to a specific, the specific audience that you want to do. And with social, you can be relatively granular in terms of who want to, I don't know if it's the socks that, I know. Well, one of the things about this, socks that have their name on it, because in big families. So this kind of things. And then from that point, as when you start and you start to have your operations from social, then that's the way you can branch on marketplaces. Marketplaces are tough because your margin will be below. So because of prices, because of competitions, because of the commission that they take, and I know about that. So it's to do when you're ready for that. But I do feel that once you have both, that also can bring you more on the DTC side and on the social, and that's where there is a growth cycle that could work.
Any remarks on?
No. I mean, I agree. I do agree with you on that. I think the risk with Amazon and Temu and things like that is the business model is a bit, let's build. Suddenly you're on there, and then suddenly a brand with 15 letters on it and a funny name spins up, which is undercutting your product at half the price. And so I think that world of ideally building that marketplace brand, and I think you need to try and do both, except that marketplace is the volume driver, but you're going to try and use that to build as a halo effect of some loyalty on your D2C, because there's always a risk that you've got a product that you think's great and then you find out that it's being we know how Amazon works, and it's great, and it's also not so great in other ways.
Yeah, I think my final question for you, and perhaps you can help me out here as well, but more like about customer insights and what are you seeing, the shifts there? Because I think about like, what do you call in English?
Synthetic data?
No, it has become very popular nowadays. Like, for example, when you want to bet on a candidate, so it's more reactive, like the popular opinion, giving you pointing the way where you should go, opposed to collecting a lot of insights and taking a long time to. So, how do you see your industry evolving? Like, for
So it's not my industry.
or with Kantar and this.
Because I think it's very important that every one of us, building things, doing marketing, have access to consumer insight. You need it. It's just it's the data. It's that. Now, which type of consumer insight we are talking here? First is knowing who your customer are. So it's one of the first things to do is actually to meet some customers, do some focus group, engage on social, or even with families and friends if you don't have money to do anything like that. And then from that point, then there is the bigger discussions about consumer insight and agency and all of this. In the world of Kantar, in the world that have left, there is a lot of discussions related to how to bring good quality data from respondents. And it's not easy. It's really not easy to tackle, because if you do want a lot of volume, then the prices makes it difficult to get good quality data. But then on the other hand, if you want to go into another directions and have going on smaller and smaller sample, then you don't have the quality as well or the insight. So it's really between the two. My take on it is two things. First, that the need for consumer insight is still there, and so we need to be better with the tool. AI will help at some point as well, either with synthetic data or with better ways to talk with the customers on this, or doing focus group or doing that. But then it's also not remove the just plain things of talking, with customers and having.
We'll be able to change the conversation in the way that it needs to go. You can. There are. I know some AI tools out there that do probably more quantitative, as much as qualitative. But they can't do the emotional shift in the, that experience that, with insights background have to change the direction of the conversation, to go right now we need to dig into that there, because it's not what they do. And I think they all have their places, So it feels like there's another tool there, but ultimately that data quality is important to have from a professional.
One of the most positive development for me is when we manage to see the convergence between the behavioral data. So thinking the e-commerce is all the data that you have about who is buying what, at what is the average price and when, and what is the attribution. Everything that, real things on the website, with what is claimed or what is talked about, with even the reviews or some survey, if we want to put survey in. Because that's always been something that was very separate, and so you could see people saying, "Oh yes, of course, I recommend your services 5 out of 5 times," and then you see that they were not coming back. So when you manage with this type of tools to converge the behavioral data with the claim data, you have a much more interesting landscape to work.
All right, so I think we covered a lot of ground. Is there anything I didn't ask you that I should have asked you today?
What is your take on the show today?
I really didn't explore the show, but my take is that there's no online and offline retail. I think there's the customer, and the customer decides. And so my opinion is that you as a merchant, you have to be nimble, paying attention to, to what's happening and listening to your customers. So that's my take. And the customer decides where they want to buy from, so.
What's the biggest shift you've seen then, really, in the last couple of years since all the AI stuff has been happening? As in how customers are, any shift in the way customers are thinking about things in what you mean?
So you were right saying that there were a lot more online with the pandemic, and then it is at a threshold. Another thing as well is a lot of going back to smaller size of stores with commuting and all of this. So people bringing groceries from the stations, things like that, which I think is interesting. And personally, there is also the whole thing about the reason why I was talking about DTC is, of course, there is also the subscription model. All of this is relatively new. Well, no, subscription model is not new, but the fact that you can have your supplement on subscription plus your toilet paper on subscription, all of this is actually quite new and interesting.
Well, it's because the technology's got in place now, and the operational mechanics underneath it of replenishment and having the stock available. This again goes back to my point in the beginning of technologies not finally catching up to where it needs to be. Yeah.
Well, one thing that I find it very interesting about the UK, and I don't think that is true for Brazil or probably the US, is like how much loyalty programs there are in this country. And I mean, I think we could do a whole series just about loyalty and subscription. And like if you go to Boots or like there's loyalty, right?
Yeah, well, Tesco is a little bit the founders of the loyalty programs, but it's the UK also is interesting because the size and the penetration and the population means that online has always been very strong. Compared to the US, I imagine Brazil is the same thing in terms of, because bigger country with difficult continental and the population also in the cities, which means that you can see sometimes especially in the multi-channel, offline versus offline, you see something that is more integrated in the UK. That was before the pandemic, especially. Yeah.
I think this is great. We better stop there. Yeah.
All right. So, Bérengère.
Thank you.
Bérengère. If people want to find you, what's the best way?
LinkedIn, Bérengère Chaintreau-Fuchs. I am LinkedIn. I'm always happy to connect and have conversations about the topic that we just discussed.
Sounds good. If you want to know more about it, well, Evolve Commerce Club is around. Thank you. Thank you, David.